Okay, as promised, here is a video on outfield checks in box seat baseball. And an outfield check is a situation where a ball is hit into the outfield, kind of between two fielders, or where one of the fielders needs to move pretty quickly to cut the ball off. It's always going to be a hit. It's either going to be a single or a double, and which it is depends on the capability of the outfielder that's going to be fielding the ball. So let's go back to Mickey Stanley here for the Tigers batting. Again, I'm not going to worry about the pitcher. I'm going to kind of set the dice so it's automatically a hit. And he's got Dick Sharon on first base, who, as we mentioned earlier, is an A+ base runner. Okay, he rolls a 54 and a 99 on the green and red. The 54 against a right-handed pitcher is going to be a single two, and the 99 is going to beat the 90. That means it's an automatic hit, so it's going to be a single for Stanley. And let's see what happens to Sharon. So we go to single two, and it's going to be hit to center field, an average distance from the center fielder, and that center fielder is the Indians' George Hendrick, who is a 2-rated center fielder. You can see the first number on his F is 2, and the first position listed for him is center field. So he's a 2 in center, he'd be a 3 in left. Okay, but he's in center here today. So 2, and then let's go down to runner on first, row 2, and you have an outfield check, and that would be with any out situation. The parentheses would mean 2 outs. It's an outfield check in either situation. Okay, here's what you're going to do when you see that. So to get the base advance, you're going to have to, and to get the result of the play, you're going to have to go to this chart here, and you're going to re-roll the green and the red. And you can see that for a single, if you roll anything from 0 to 24, any fielder with a rating of better than 3 is going to make the play and hold it to a single. And Hendrick is that. If you go 25 to 48, any fielder who is a 3 or better, anything but a 4, also going to make the play. Hendrick makes the play. Okay, hold on to 49 to 58 briefly, and then 59 to 99, all fielders make the play. So, of course, Hendrick and any other fielder would make the play. 49 to 58, you're going to be testing Hendrick's arm. Hold that thought, and we'll get to it. So then what you're going to see is, in all these cases, Hendrick's going to make the play because he's a 2. Okay, then you're going to look at what's in green next to it. And you see either norm or Z, and that's going to tell you what the base advance is. So normal base advance is one result, and Z base advance is another result. So down here is what happens on a single on a normal base advance. All runners on second are going to score no matter where the ball is hit under a normal base advance. And the runner on first is going to go to third depending on his speed. So if it's hit to left, only an A+ runner makes it to third. If it's hit to center, A+, A, or B make it to third. And if it's hit to right, it's basically A+ through C. Anything but C- will make it to third on that. So in the case of Sharon, he's there's Hendrick, sorry. If you look at Sharon, he's an A+, very fast. So he's going to make it to third if you have a normal base advance. What if you have a Z base advance? This is kind of one of the more interesting features of the game. So if you had rolled an 88 on the green and the red, and Hendrick makes the play, but it's Z base advance. So what happens on that? This is a case where if there's a runner on first, any runner on first who's an A+ or an A scores on a single from first if there's a Z base advance. And you can see there's not too many chances. It doesn't happen too often, but a very fast runner has a chance to do the Enos Slaughter or the Lorenzo Cain and come all the way around from first and score on a single. And then any base runner who is a B, C, or C- just defaults to the normal base advance. And that's back over here. So that's what happens on a single. Okay, now what if Stanley were to hit a double and you got an outfield check? Let's make the 54 56. And that's the same result we had in the last video against a righty, double 2. Let's use this flip card instead. Hit to center again. It's in the left field gap, and you see an O. an O and an O. So the first O means runner on first only. The second O means runner on first and runners ahead of him. Okay, either way, it's an outfield check. And it's going to be on Hendrick again because he's playing center field. So again, you're going to roll the green and the red, and you're going to look over at the right-hand column where it says DBL. Okay, over here, a two fielder has a few chances to make the play, but there's also some cases there where you see a fielder has to be less than two. And that means a one, and Hendrick is not a one, he's a two. So in those cases, he is unable to prevent the double. But in the case of, say, 49 and 50 or 28 to 44, so forth and so on, any fielder who's better than three would stop that double and turn it into a single. Okay, and the trick here is when you're trying to gauge base advance, which base advance to use, you need to go with what the hit actually becomes and use that base advance. So, for example, if Hendrick, if the green and red were a 33, and that's between 28 and 44, it says double less than or equal or less than 3. So Hendrick makes the play. He turns it into a single. You got to go over to the single side and use that base advance. So 28 to 44 for a single, it's normal base advance. So Sharon's going to go to third on that. But you're using the single base advance. On the double side, you can see there's all Z's. And so the doubles base advance is, in this case, runner on in the first line. I'll decode that for you. If there's any situation other than a runner on second or runners on second and third with less than two out. So anytime there's a runner on first, anytime there's two outs, then it's going to be this normal base advance, which is runner on first has a coach's decision. So then you're going to use the doubles base advance chart and test Sharon's speed against the outfielder's arm. Okay, but here's kind of the trick. If you were to have a situation where a runner was on second or runners on second and third, and there's fewer than two outs, then you have a situation where on a Z base advance on doubles, the runner on second is going to get a bad read on the ball, and he's only going to make it to third, even though the batter gets to second. So here's our friend, the lead-footed Gates Brown, who's a C-. If he were on second, and let's say Sharon were on third in front of him, Sharon would obviously score on the double, but Brown, because he's a C-, doesn't get a good read on the ball, and he only is able to get to third base, and Stanley would end up on second. So that's kind of another odd situation. This one happens probably less frequently than the Z on the singles, because it has to be a situation with second or second and third and less than two outs, and there are just not as many of those situations in the game. So in those cases, the slow-footed runner is only going to get one base, even though the batter gets a double. So if you look at this chart, what we're seeing here is most fielders can make a play on a single and prevent it from being a double, but only the good fielders are going to be able to stop a double and turn it into a single. A 4 is never going to make that play. A 1 is going to make that play pretty often, except when you're testing the arm, whereas over here, anything 59 to 99, any outfielder makes the play. So that makes sense, right? A ball kind of hit in the gap. Most fielders can come over and cut it off and keep a single. But a ball that's hit pretty hard in the gap, that's probably going to be a double. It takes a really good fielder most times to be able to cut that ball off and hold the batter to a single. So that's why you see what you see. Now, let me explain the arm situation. There's some on the single side and there's some on the double side. So if you were to end up with a situation where you rolled the green and the red on a single and you got arm, say you got a 55, and it would be a single and it'd be an arm. Okay, so in this case, you go down to the arm chart and you're going to re-roll the red, and you're going to check the outfielder's arm. So Hendrick, who's a pretty good fielder from a range standpoint, is a very poor fielder from an arm standpoint. His arm is a D, which is the worst you can have. So you're going to re-roll one die, either the green or the red, And this is going to tell you what the result is. So if you were to get the arm result, you go down here, you roll against Hendrick's arm, which is a D. If you roll a 2 to a 9, it's a double, and there's Z base advance, meaning Sharon on first would score. Or actually, I'm sorry, Sharon would have a coach's decision. If you roll a 1, it's a single, and runners on first, A plus, A or B would go to third, and on second would score. Everybody else moves up one base. And if you were to roll a 0, then Hendrick actually throws Stanley out at second with Sharon going over to third. So that's how the arm works. And you can see with the better arms, an A arm, the Roberto Clementes, Ellis Valentines of the world, they're only going to allow a double on 8 or 9 and a single on 4 to 7, and they're going to throw runners out 40% of the time, 0 to 3. So better arms are going to provide better results in preventing doubles and potentially throwing runners out at second. So that's how outfield checks work. The things to remember are, first of all, you roll the green and the red again, and you're going to check, from what the original hit result was, whether the fielder makes the play or whether you need to go to his arm. And then you need to make sure that when you figure out what kind of hit it is, you use the base advance on that side of the chart. So if it's originally a double and the fielder holds them to a single, then you need to use the singles base advance. If it were originally a single and the fielder ends up turning it into a double, you need to use the doubles base advance. And then you need to know the difference between Z and normal on singles. And then with doubles, you just have to know that situation of where a runner is on second and he's a C or a C minus, and he's got nobody behind him on the bases, and there's less than 2 outs. And in those cases, he gets a bad read on the ball, and he only makes it to third. So this took me a while to learn. It doesn't happen too often, enough to make sure you get some practice with it. But those are kind of the tips for success on outfield checks. And if you like the easy play version of Box Seat better than the under the hood version, Josh Nelson did a really good video on this process a few years ago for the easy play version, and go over to his channel and check out his video. It's really, really good. So this is kind of the under the hood corollary to Josh's video. Hope everyone's having a good day. Thanks for watching.